Good day, everyone. Hope I met you well. It's Instructor Stella Diamond, and on this course today, we'll be talking about front end programming, designing interactive web applications. But before we dive in, I would like us to give glory to God. I would like to thank God for the privilege to be here, for the privilege to be the one taking this course, for the wisdom, for the knowledge, and for the boldness. So I would like to return all glory to Him. So moving on to the reason why we are here, today's course is front-end programming. I'm going to be talking about how to design an interactive web applications that can work and earn you money. So without wasting much of our time, let's move on to the next slide. Like I said, I'm instructor Stella Diamond. So today's course content is going to be what is front-end programming. We're going to be knowing what front-end programming means. We're going to be talking about front-end programming languages. It has its own languages, so we're going to learn more about the languages. We're going to be talking about HTML. What is HTML and how can it help us to acquire our knowledge in front-end? We're going to be looking at more about HTML. We'll be talking about more about CSS. We'll talk more on JavaScript, front-end frameworks. We're talking more on front-end tools and best practices for front end. Then these resources are other ways you can gain more knowledge on front end. So that was much of our time. Let's move on. So what is front-end programming? Front-end programming is a client-side scripting for web application. What do we mean by this word? Client-side. Because this is the part users will see. You can't see the back end of any website. You can only see the front end. You can interact with the front end. So the part that the clients see, the part that users see, interact with, do most of their things on is called the front end of that website. If you go on Facebook, if you're chatting, you are doing anything, all those things we are doing, interacting with our Facebook, interacting with the system, we are interacting with the front end. As for the back end, we can't see the back end of the program, which is just meant for programmers and software engineers that maintains it. So front end is a client-side scripting for web applications. The way your front end looks like would make people determine how people would see your website. So you have to make sure that your front end, the client-side view, is very attractive and nice. So front end would, in this course, I will teach you how to make it nice. I'll tell you the tools you have to use and the things you have to do. So what are the responsibilities of what front end? Firstly, we have this word user interface design. What do we mean by user interface design? This simply means how we create our front end to look like, how we make it easy for users to interact with, how we make it user friendly. There's some websites you go to, you won't even know where to press for the next thing to show up, you won't even know what to do. You just be on the website and start looking into it. But no, as a programmer, you're supposed to make your website very easy and user friendly that even a novice would conveniently use it. So whenever we're programming for front end, we don't program based on what we think we can do. No, we program based on other users as well. We have to make it friendly, we have to make it simple, we have to make it enjoyable for our clients or our users to be able to use it. So going to the next responsibility, we have user experience. This user experience is one of the most important parts of front-end programming because it talks about how users feel after using your website. Are they happy? Are they angry? Are they sad? Are they feeling irritated? There's some websites you go to that are not even worthy to even be called a website. And there's some that you go to that you won't even want to leave that website. So what the users feel, how they take your website to be is very, very important as a front-end programmer. Interactivity, how users interact with your app. So as a front-end programmer, you have to make your website very interactive. You have to make sure that users can interact with it, users can do whatever they want with it. Since we are programming for them, we're designing websites for them, we have to make sure that they enjoy it, they interact with it freely, that even a novice, a beginner should be able to know how to interact with it. Like even if you check Facebook out today, even a 5-year-old can operate it. That is just what we're talking about, the interactivity. So we have to make sure that our front end is very, very interactable. Then we have this responsive design. We have to make sure that in everything we do, our website is responsive. We can't just create a website that people will interact after typing long message, they'll press send. no action is taking place. No, users will be very angry and very disturbed. They will give a bad review, a bad announcement out there saying that our website is not really good. So we have to make sure that it gives a responsive design. We have to create our website to be responsive, so that whenever they type message, whenever they click on send, whenever they want to fill in anything, whenever they click on submit or all those interactive buttons, which they'll get a responsive answer. They'll enjoy the design. Just make sure that your front end is responsive and is good enough for them. So moving on to the next slide, we have front end languages. Like I told you earlier, front end has its own languages. You can't use Python now to do front end. No, what we use for front end is we use the HTML, which is the hypertext markup language. We use the CSS, which is the cascading style sheet, and we use the JavaScript, which is a scripting language. So this HTML, this helps us to create to create the structural part of our website. When I say structural, like how it will look like now, if you want to create a website, firstly, you can't just go and start designing your website. No, something has to be done. Something has to be written first. You should know that, okay, I'm creating a website to welcome people. So you should have set everything. Then after you've created the structural part of your website, you come down now to use CSS to beautify it. So all those websites that are saying, all those Facebook, all those things that you're writing, welcome to Facebook, please log in, write in your names, all those things is what we use HTML for. If you want to create forms, you use HTML. If you want to create tables, you use HTML. So the CSS part of it will just help you to decorate it, to make it look extremely beautiful, whereby in this CSS you can use the appropriate picture, appropriate colors, appropriate fonts, font types, font family, font weight, a lot of things. With the help of cascading style sheets, your website will look extremely beautiful and worth visiting. Then the JavaScript is the one that tells the front end, is one that is actually the behavioral part of the front end. Let me put it like this: is the behavioral part of the front end. How your front end will behave. Is it going to be a website that will welcome people like we wanted? Is it going to be a website that instead of welcoming people to be sending money? Is it going to be a website that instead of welcoming people to be doing games? No. So with the help of those three, we can successfully create our first front end program. I hope we are understanding it, and I hope we are following. So hypertext markup language, we're looking at this now as a topic for us. So hypertext markup language is a standard markup language for web pages. And what are they used for? They're used for structuring content, creating forms, and building tables. Like I said before, if you want to do anything on your web page, you want to create a website, you would first of all need to write down code. You first of all need to create the structure of the code before you design it. So with this help of HTML, you can structure out your content, what you want your website to contain, what you want to be inside your website, what you want your website to entail. So creating forms, like if people want to register, if people want to sign in, if people want to buy things, or any type of website you're creating, it depends. You can use HTML to create the appropriate form for it. So with the help of HTML, we can create forms. We can also build tables. Like if you want to put things in a tabular form, we can use HTML to create tables successfully. If you look at on my left hand side, though you might not really see the contents written, but this is how an HTML code looks like. So you're going to type in how you want your code to look like first, the structure of the code, things it will entail before diving into what to style it. So without wasting much of our time, let's move on to the next slide. CSS, cascading style sheet. So this is a styling language for web pages. Now look at this keyword, a styling language. It is just used for styling. It helps you to beautify your website, how your website will look like, to beautify it for you. So that is just what this cascading is about. You can't use through a cascading website to say, okay, CSS, make my code to open or to make my code to log in, make my code. No, to only just help you to style it, to help you to add color, help you to add fonts, help you to, if you need it to underline, if you need it to be bold, just a styling language just to make it beautiful. That's what cascading style sheet does for your website. So uses of cascading style sheet: number one, it controls the color, font, and the size of the text. Like I've said earlier, it controls color, font, and size of text. Through CSS, you can know how to control color, you can know what font to use, you can know the size of your text, you can actually control it as well. You can say, okay, today I want to use yellow, tomorrow I'll use blue. You can say, okay, today I want to use big font, tomorrow I'll use tiny font. You can say, okay, today I want to change the size of my font, I want it to be tiny. You can say you want it to be big. So it depends on you, but with the help of CSS you can control all these things. With the help of CSS as well, we can also control what background image or what background colors are to be used. So CSS helps us to add images or background, helps us to add colors if you don't want to use images. With the help of cascading style sheets, your website will look very beautiful. It helps you to select images. A lot of options, a lot of things you can do in your cascading style sheet. It also helps to control different displays for different sizes and screen. Like when you're creating a website, you should be a programmer that you should be a reasonable programmer. Let me use that word. You should be a reasonable programmer. You should not just create a website that is for laptop view alone. No. So that when people using Android or iOS should come up now that they want to use our website, should they be seeing a bold, would they be seeing a bold websites whereby half of the words are cut off? No, you have to make your website in such a way that phones can use it and laptops can use it. Even television should be able to do, in case if it's something relating to movie websites you're doing. So you should, with the help of CSS, it helps us to control different displays for different devices and screen. So without further ado, let's move on to the next slide. JavaScript. JavaScript. This is a programming language used for web interactivity. Like I said, it's JavaScript that determines the behavior. You can actually create a successful website. You can beautify it, make it the most beautiful website. But without JavaScript, it cannot be interactive. It cannot be interactive. So this JavaScript makes it interactive, makes it be able to carry out the specific tasks you want it to carry out for you. So what is JavaScript used for? This for animations, this for event handling and dynamics updates. This animation is if you want to add transitions or you want to add animations to your website to help you. If you want to make your website, if they click it, you should be doing inside out transition. That is what this JavaScript will help you to do. Event handling, it handles events. Dynamic updates, it updates your code. It brings out updates on its own. Sometimes it does help you update your website in a way that it will be good. You can use your JavaScript. When you update your JavaScript, automatically your website is upgraded. It is updated. So without wasting much of our time, let's move on to the next slide. Front end framework. We have so many frameworks in front end, but just to mention a few, we have the Bootstrap, we have React, we have Angular, and we have Vue.js. So these are little frameworks, not to mention others, to mention a few. So with the help of these frameworks, you can either study Bootstrap, you can study React, you can study Angular, you can study Vue.js. They're all types of frameworks you can mix together with your JavaScript to make your website, your front-end website, more beautiful, interactive, and for developing response, like when they click on it, you should be able to respond them on time, and that is what is useful. So look at the diagram on my left hand side. You will see that they say Bootstrap is the most popular HTML, CSS, and JavaScript framework for developing responsive mobile first projects on the web. So if you want to create if you want to create a website, you should use, after using your HTML, using your CSS, using your JavaScript, you should add a framework, Bootstrap. You can add React, you can add Angular, or you can add Vue.js. It is for you to choose, but make sure you add a framework to it to increase the responsive design. So front end tools, what are the tools you can use to write our front end? things we can use to write our front end. We can use Visual Studio Code, we can use Sublime Text, we can also use Atom. I think these are to mention a few, because you can also use Notepad. I think so, yes, you can use Notepad, but this is to mention a few. These are what we can use to write our code in front end. We can run it, we can see error messages and debug it from these code editors mentioned here. So what are the best practices for front end? Firstly, one of the best practices for front end is to write clean and readable code. You should not write a code that if you write it today, tomorrow, let's say you want to make an update to your code, you'll not be like, what did I write here? I can't really see it, I can't really understand it. No, write a clean, readable code. Use semantic HTML. And use HTML that is appropriate, and use optimize images. Use images to also support your front end, to support your website. Make sure that it's attractive, it is interactive and self-explanatory. If you look at this diagram on my left hand side, you see that this code is a readable code, is clean. It tells us about how this is the syntax of HTML. We'll write your HTML first, followed by the title, followed by the body, then you close the HTML. So, but other things can be added into this. Other things can be added into this code, but you just to show you how it would look like. So without wasting much of our time, resources on. So these are other places you can gain more idea on front end. You can get more idea on how to do about it if you want to create your first website. So you can follow online courses. You can use Udemy, you can use Coursera, you can use Free Code Camp. Then if you want to use books, you can use HTML and CSS, that is design and build websites. You can read this book, it will help you and guide you towards your successful website. Then you can use JavaScript and DOM script. So you should, if you are using books, I would advise you use these two books together, because this one will just help in your HTML and CSS part, this one will help in your JavaScript and DOM script, and I'm sure it also entails part of the frameworks you to use. Moving on to the next slide. Now we've come to the end of today's program. We've come to the end of today's course. So I pray for everyone that listens to this and watches this tutorial, that which you've gained from today's tutorial, the tutorials will not take it away from you. It will continue to stick with you as you make your decisions, as you take that broad step to start programming, to create your own first front-end website. May God in heaven help us all, in Jesus' name, amen. See you all later, and stay tuned. At the end of this course, I'm going to be having a practical section, so stay connected and stay tuned after the end of this course. Thank you.